EV sales are going up all over the world, all over the globe. Europe, they're going up too. Everybody's doing well, aren't they? They're all going to get this ZEV mandate target. You have American football, offense and defense. Karate, offense and defense. Cricket, 6 and block. Everything, offense and defense. Car sales, offense and defense. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. MSN, crash or rescue, European car makers look to EU for salvation. Well, trust me, if you're looking to the EU for salvation, you're looking in the wrong place. It's kill or be killed. Crash or rescue, European car makers look to EU for salvation. Story by Stefan Grobe, 10 hours ago. Europe's car industry is in mortal danger. EU industry chief Stefan Sejourn said a few months back, not mincing his words. Stuttering sales, high energy prices, growing global competition and an uncertain regulatory and trade environment have plunged the sector into a spiralling crisis. There is a risk that the future map of the global car industry will be drawn without Europe, Sejourn said back in April. To tackle the sector's most pressing challenges, EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen will host the top car executives in Brussels on Friday. Now, one of the things that I read about Boris Johnson, a lot of people thought he was a bumbling fool, but he was quite a clever man. And he surrounded himself with people who actually knew what they were doing. And Boris did a lot of things that I didn't know about until I read his book. I've got a lot more time for him now. In fact, I wish he was still back as Prime Minister. I was a paid up member of the Conservative Party. I binned it as soon as they forced Richie Rich Sunak on us. I binned my card, and you know, I was right to do so. Seeing the laughable things that they've done since, and the things they say, you know, that was something else I was right about, I think. As I say, he surrounded himself by experts, but the British government, somehow, the experts that they're picking experts with agendas. They're being advised by people with agendas. Stupid. Absolutely stupid. And unless here, Ursula von der Leyen has got somebody who hasn't got an agenda, hasn't got an axe to grind, but knows about the motor trade, then I fear for this as well. And I'll show you again in another article why I fear for it and why I fear for the advice and the lobbying that they get. People are paid to lobby by other people who have an agenda. To tackle the sector's most pressing challenges, EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen will host the top car executives in Brussels on Friday. I'm not there. It's the third and last crisis meeting of its kind this year, part of what the Commission has built, the strategic dialogue on the future of the automotive industry. The meeting is scheduled for 3 hours. I mean, I could talk about this shit for way more than 3 hours, and I do. 3 hours. 3 hours. 3 hours to solve an absolute crisis. 3 hours. The meeting is... That makes me... When I used to... I may have anger issues. When I was selling cars for myself, I used to have a slam man in the workshop. And if I had a particular annoying customer, I would do my best to be polite, no matter how stupid they were. And then I would go into the workshop and I would belt the living daylights out of this slam man. And do you know what? Do you know what? it's a good thing to do, because you probably won't realise this, but I can be very sarcastic. The trouble is, when people bring the knowledgeable friend thinks they have to find something. They can't say, oh yeah, this is a nice car, because then they won't look so knowledgeable. So they have to try and pick a fault with it. And there's a certain type I've found which I can't get on with, and I just walk away from. And one in particular, they have a big bunch of keys dangling from the belt here. They usually have sandals on with no socks. Look like a history teacher. Got a check shirt on with a body warmer. And somehow a beard. And if they've got a pipe too, just walk away. Don't do it. I remember going out to one customer. He said to his mate, I'd got this beautiful car in. It was mint. I couldn't believe how clean it was. It was fantastic. It was just like it had come out of the showroom. And you'll have heard me talk yesterday about a Mr. Brewer and Mr. Brewer's cars. They were immaculate, beautiful. It was like one of his cars, except it wasn't. These two looked all round it, and I went out to them. I knew they couldn't find anything wrong with it, so I went out full of confidence. If this guy wanted to buy a car, it was a good price and it was brilliant. There was nothing you could knock it on, nothing. And his knowledgeable friend, he said, this is too clean. It's obviously had a full respray. And I just went, go home. If you're interested in a car, leave this guy at home, because he hasn't got a clue what he's talking about. And then I just walked away and went back in my office. Funnily enough, the guy came back and he bought it. Now, that was one. Another one. Go out in the car, comes back, car was red. Yeah, it's beautiful. He says, if it had been black, I'd have had it. And I said to him, at what point during the test drive did you expect this car to change colour? You've been out in my car, you've risked my no claims bonus, you've used my fuel, you've shit the mats up, and you were never going to buy it. The worst, or when I say the worst, the best one, the very, very best one, I don't know how I'm alive today. Possibly a sixth sense. I had a BMW convertible and it was mint. It was beautiful. And this chap, he says, it's not clean enough for me. Excuse me?
Excuse me? A baking powder?
Not clean enough? Yeah, he says, there's a scratch on the bonnet. I says, trust me, there's no scratches on this vehicle. And I looked at it, and it was like a dog hair or something. It was about yay big, but it was a dog hair. So I says to this guy, I'll tell you what, if I can get that scratch to move, will you buy the car? I just moved the hair. Said, there you go, it's moved, and then picked it up. And I think he said something to her like, you're a smart arse. Now, he was a wiry guy. He was about the same height as me, but sixth sense. So I said, I'm sorry. I said, but it's a clean car. If you don't want to buy it, then fair enough. But there is nothing wrong with this car. And he walked off. I could tell he was angry. And then John, my partner, came in the next day. He says, you had a close call yesterday. And somehow I knew who he was talking about. But I said, why? He says, well, the the bloke that runs the gym that I go to, who is like, I think he was either a mixed martial arts or a boxer champion. He says, you rubbed him up the wrong way. And he said to John, you know, for 2 pins, I'd have belted him one. If I hadn't made such a twat of myself by thinking a hair was a scratch, I would have done, but I had to get out of there. So if you're watching now, thank you very much for not hitting me. I probably deserved it, but thanks very much. If you knew all the aggravation over the years that I've had with people they're just messes, absolute messes. I was blowing a tyre up and I was just outside on the forecourt, and there was a family, a guy, his wife, 2 kids on the forecourt, and he said to his wife, he says, there's no way I'm buying one off a dealer. He says, but we'll go for a test drive in this, see if we like it, and then we'll go and buy one private. At which point I went, no you won't. So, the meeting is scheduled for 3 hours, but will it create new momentum for the industry? They can't fix the problem in 3 hours. Last spring, the EU launched an industrial action plan, which includes funds for battery producers, most notably through the 1.8 billion battery booster and an additional €1 billion allocated for battery research and development under the Horizon Europe programme. But such initiatives have failed to change the overall gloomy look. The sense of urgency has not gone away. Sigrid de Vries, Director General of the European Automobile Manufacturers Association, I hope they're better than the SMMT, told Euronews, we need more action. The car makers are particularly frustrated over a lack of a pragmatic policy plan for the industry's transformation, as expressed in a recent open letter to Ursula von der Leyen by the presidents of ACEA and the European Association of Automotive Suppliers, CLEPA. They may as well call it crap, mightn't they? Ola Kalinius and Matthias Zink. Oh well, there you go, zinc plated. Europe's transformation plan must move beyond idealism to acknowledge current industrial and geopolitical realities, they wrote. According to the industry representatives, lower energy costs for charging, more purchase subsidies, fuck me, and tax reductions. So they can't sell them. What they're saying is they can't sell them. We didn't have that with petrols, did we, or diesels? Why? So why with electrics? If electrics are better, why? Why do they have to do this? It's simple. They may be better. They may be better. But people don't want them. VHS and Betamax. Betamax was better. But VHS won. Laserdisc. Laserdisc and VHS. Laserdisc, far superior. What happened? CD and mini disc. Mini disc. I've got a mini disc player. It was brilliant. CDs. So better is not necessarily what people want. The heart wants what the heart wants. According to the industry representatives, lower energy costs for charging, more purchase subsidies and tax reductions, and especially a more even distribution of charging infrastructure are needed to make switching to electric vehicles an obvious choice for a critical mass of European consumers and business. EV market in Europe stagnating. Right now, the market share of battery electric vehicles in Europe stagnates at around 15%, not enough for a breakthrough of a technology considered all decisive for the future. I still say, watch this space on hydrogen and these people again, these green energy people, why do they hate hydrogen? Hydrogen won't work, it's crap, it's shit, you know. It's got to be, for these people, it's got to be. Why do they hate biofuels, alternative fuels? Why do they hate them? Why has it got to be electric vehicles? Why do they hate hybrids? Why has it got to be BEVs? Ask yourself that. If they want the future to be green, why has it just got to be battery electric vehicles? Please, if you've got an answer, honestly, please tell me, because I can't see why these people are so blinkered and so focused on battery electric vehicles. FEVs are crap. There is a considerable hesitation of many European consumers to buy an electric vehicle because there are still not enough charging stations in Europe, 75% of which are located in only 3 countries, the Netherlands, France and Germany. I didn't know that. Across the EU, only about 880,000 public charging points are currently available, but according to estimates from ACEA, 8.8 million charging points will be needed by 2030. So we've only got 10% at the moment. That's just 5 years from now. To achieve this, 1.5 million chargers would have to be installed every year, almost 10 times the current rate of growth. Seeing more economic and legal trouble on the horizon, the car industry wants a review of current CO2 regulations. Meeting the rigid car and van CO2 targets for 2030 and 2035 is in today's world no longer feasible, as the presidents of ACEA and CRAPA wrote to Ursula von der Leyen. Instead, they demand flexibility and pragmatism regarding drivetrain technologies, aka the ban of combustion engines, as a crucial rescue rope for the embattled industry. After all, you cannot force people into a particular kind of car, Sigrid de Vries said, but that's exactly what they're trying to do. For years, electrification has been the key strategy deployed globally by the industry to produce zero-emission vehicles, responding to a key quest of policymakers. What is at stake is nothing less than the survival of the European car industry, widely regarded as the industrial backbone of the European economy, supporting more than 13 million direct and indirect jobs, more than 6% of total EU employment, and contributing roughly €1 trillion to the EU's gross domestic product. In Germany, Sweden and some Eastern European countries, the car industry accounts for more than 10% of the manufacturing workforce. So when Germany, Europe's biggest economy, lost 50,000 jobs in the car sector last year alone, the shockwaves were felt everywhere. The country is home to some of the most famous car makers in history, yet their survival is not guaranteed forever. Just look at the United Kingdom, whose car industry was once dominant, but today only has one 100% British brand left, the family-owned Morgan, that makes hand-built sports cars. Every job lost, every factory shut down, will not come back, Dudenhofer said. So if the car industry struggles and declines, the general economic perspectives in Europe could be devastating for years to come. Some of these experts are advising von der Leyen. Volvo and Polestar, only OEMs urging EU to stick with 2035 zero-emission deadline. Volvo Estates. Somebody at Volvo decided they weren't going to make Volvo Estates anymore. As soon as I read it, I knew it was financial suicide. Only an idiot. In fact, I said, I think in a tweet, I'd like to have been a fly on the wall at the board meeting where somebody come up. Okay, Hans, you next. Hans? Stop making, I'm sorry, stop making estates. Have you seen Graham Norton?
And did you end up marrying Rachel Gould?
No, not yet, no.
All time. You could have revenge if you want to. Do you want to? There you go. All those years.
That's what they should have done. But instead, because all the rest of the board members must be equally stupid, they stopped making them. 2 months later, they were back doing it. But again, Volvo and Polestar, here we go. Volvo and Polestar. Polestar shares crash as Q2 net losses widen sharply on impairment hit. For every £100 in revenue they take, it costs them £149.50. The only way they can sell Polestars is by somebody making sure that you've got to have an EV. What were they saying earlier on in the year? Polestar enjoys a 185% sales boom as it targets more models and dealerships. Sales boomed to just under 3,700 in Q1. Polestar is now the fastest growing European brand. A European brand that's owned by the Chinese, but that's the SMMT who said that. We're really proud of our SMMT. Polestar has signed off on a 185% increase in UK sales in Q1 as it continues to grow its presence in the UK market with more models and dealerships. So that was by James Batchelor, April 15, 2025. 3rd of September 2025, Polestar shares crash as Q2 net loss widens. Volvo and Polestar, only OEMs, urging EU to stick with 2035 zero emission deadline. Here are the Volvos listed on Auto Trader. Go down to the bottom there, Volvo electric vehicles. There was 1,134 for sale. However, when we limit this to 2025, and then we go to mileage and we put up to 100 miles, search the cars, into filter, onto most recent. We've got the first one there, minus 2,403. The next one, nearly new, 5 miles, 2025 75 reg. Scrolling down, you see 10 miles, 10 miles, 10 miles, 10 miles, 10 miles. There we go, nearly new, 10 miles still, all the way down here. There, save 11,200, save 10,934, 25 miles only. And I've seen hundreds of these advertised on Auto Trader at massively knocked down, reduced prices. They just can't get rid of them. They're having to self-register them and then sell them off cheap. They're 9.5 grand off. £10,934 off. 10,934, another one. I think that's probably the same one, to be fair. But these are all about 32 grand. And every time they pre-register a batch of new ones, the older ones with the older registration or last year's go down even more. Adding to Volvo catastrophic depreciation. Ask yourself why Volvo want to make sure the EU don't water down their ZEV mandate. Just look at them. Save 11,268, save 12,550. Quite funny there, even though in the search that I've put in for Volvos, electric Volvos, Auto Trader sticks in a BYD for you to have a look at too. Just look. What a 2 and 8 the EV market's in. Down 5,011. 6,011, 6,011, 6,011. You see there, what were they? 10 miles. We're still on 2025 25s. Still. All the way down the page here. Still 2025 25s. Down £20,167. And there we go, we get to the bottom. You'll see there, down 11,268, down 10,934. Volvo and Polestar, only OEMs urging EU to stick with 2035 zero emissions deadline. Ask yourself why that is. It's the only way they're going to sell them, that's why. By forcing people. Mercedes-Benz and the EU car industry tell Brussels full electrification no longer feasible. September the 5th, 2025, by Matt Lister, editor of Driving Hydrogen. Europe's car makers and suppliers' biggest lobbyists delivered a blunt, open letter warning to Brussels last week, telling the European Commission President that the bloc's current plan to decarbonise road transport is simply no longer feasible and risks hollowing out one of its most important and strategic industries. Call for technology neutrality, hydrogen explicitly included. Mercedes-Benz CEO Ola Kalinius and Schaeffler Powertrain Chief Matthias Zink, who lead ACA and Klepper, respectively, argue that Brussels must widen its approach to include hydrogen and e-fuels. Technology neutrality should be the core regulatory principle which safeguards that all technology can contribute to decarbonisation, they said. EVs will lead the charge, but there must be space for plug-in hybrids, range extenders, highly efficient internal combustion engine, ICE vehicles, hydrogen and decarbonised fuels. Now watch out for hydrogen and also range extenders. What do range extenders run on? They're basically a generator, aren't they? Why not just put a generator in your car? They stress that decarbonisation means going beyond new vehicle targets. It requires tackling emissions from the existing fleet, expanding fiscal and purchase incentives again, and introducing targeted measures for trucks and buses to level the total cost of ownership. How much incentive do Rolex give you? How many tax breaks do you get if you buy a Rolex? How much VAT do you get knocked off a Rolex? How many Rolexes are worn by the shop owner and then advertised as second-hand for loads less? How many Rolexes go for way more than retail? You try and get a stainless steel Rolex. My Amiga, I've had it 30 years. Brilliant watch. I've had loads of Rolexes, and somehow I always end up getting rid of the Rolexes. I've had gold ones, but I always end up wearing my flipping Amiga. It's just brilliant. But I thought, you know, I've had it 30 years. I'll treat myself to a new Rolex. And the funny thing is, they had the same attitude as the EV zealots, looking down the nose at you. If you don't want an EV, you need educating. You don't know what's good for you. Years and years ago, I went in this shop in Preston, and I wanted a gold Rolex. And the guy behind the counter looked at me like, to say he looked down his nose at me. I was a heck of a lot younger then. The first Rolex I bought, he looked down his nose at me. And I ended up going to landed dues at Blackpool. By accident, sold him a car. Completely different. Absolutely completely different. When I went to Preston, they used the same tactic as, I'm assuming, Porsche were selling Taycans. Guy goes into a Porsche showroom, I want a new 911. Oh, right, okay, you have to buy a Taycan first. What? I don't want a Taycan, I want a 911. Well, I'm sorry, you have to, you know. When I went to buy this Rolex, have you bought things from us before? Yeah, I've bought quite a lot. Because we have to set up a buying relationship. Do we? Well, let's set it up now. I want a stainless steel Rolex. Well, no, we have to see that you're buying other things off us before we can put you on the list for one of them. Perhaps that's how they should sell EVs. When somebody goes in a showroom and they want a nice car, we'll have to set up a buying relationship. Once you've bought a few EVs off us, we'll sell you a nice car. That's the only way it's going to work. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Ta-da.